The response to my last Arknights video has been interesting. An 86% dislike ratio and a huge swathe of comments from people calling me a paid shill. What's going on? Let's talk about it. A couple of days ago, I posted my first impressions on Arknights Endfield. It was a non-sponsored video that went over many facets of the game, from story to combat, exploration, factory building, and the gacha that all came from an early player's perspective, and I made sure to take adequate time to be honest and critical in my takes, praise where it's due, and critique where I felt it was necessary. Let me give you the TLDR. The introduction to this game is awesome and the visuals are some of the best we've ever seen in gacha, but the story is mindlessly dull and full of fluff for far too long. It's the first time I've actually utilized a skip story feature. The factory building is the peak gameplay experience for me and where I've spent most of my time, and I admit I've had a lot of fun here, but the tutorials early game are overwhelming and will definitely drive people away early game. Combat is fun and fluid when you chain combos, but sitting on your ass once you've blasted through a burst can sometimes feel a little bit awkward and shitty. On launch, the game ran super smooth on PC and is one of the best optimized games I've played on release in a long time, but the PayPal hack was inexcusable and ruined player trust quite rightfully. And as for the gacha, I have been very critical of it since before its release, and my stance is no different after launch. Guarantee pity not carrying over sucks. The spark not remaining even if you pull a limited also sucks. The pull economy is dreadful, at least in the early game, so if you play just with the intent of pulling and owning characters, you're going to have a rough time being free to play. Is it cheaper to get characters if you spend in this gacha compared to others? Technically yes, so if you're someone who spends for every character, you'll end up spending less overall, but the fact you could theoretically spend and make no permanent progress unless you complete a banner is stupid and also inexcusable. Okay. Here's the thing, all of these things can be true at once. It's nuance and something that seems to have been lost when it comes to conversations in 2026. There were many that were very positive about this video and called it a fair critique, but there was an unusual amount of people commenting suggesting that I wasn't negative enough and so I must be dishonest. I got called a paid shill, a grifter, someone going to bat for a greedy company, despite me literally criticizing the monetization issues in the same video, and I've done so repeatedly outside of it. I even made a disclaimer that I turned down potential sponsors from Hypergriff. My channel usually sits around a 96% like ratio, but that Enfield dropped to 86, and the negative comments, a lot of which I've removed by now, were all saying the same thing but in different ways. The game is bad because the gacha is bad. You having fun or being too positive screams that you've been paid off to say this. There's no conversation to be had with people that can't be reasoned with, and that's the actual problem here. These are people who do not want critique. They want you to say this game is straight turbo wank garbage. They'll likely say we're just holding the devs accountable or wanting the game to improve, but if the only opinion you will accept is pure negativity, then you actually don't care about the game improving at all. You just want to sit in an echo chamber and make snow angels in performative outrage. I can literally be saying, yeah, I'm having fun with the factory, but the gacha system is absolutely terrible, and these people will only hear, you're defending a greedy company, and it's wildly frustrating in a video where I do criticize the system itself. People have already decided that Endfield is bad because of the gacha, and anything that doesn't fully align with that way of thinking ends up becoming a little bit suspect to them. Some people cannot understand that me finding value in some parts of the game is not me giving a moral defense to a greedy company. Listen, I've spent close to 30 hours just messing around with the factory, min-maxing my yield and usage, tearing everything down only to rebuild it when I unlock new materials. All of that is completely separate from the gacha. You don't have to interact with it all to have a fun gameplay experience, and I think that genuinely really matters. In most gachas, the gameplay is entirely dictated by what characters you pull for a combat experience. In Enfield, at least in the first 40 to 50 hours, that's not entirely the case. I've played more hours of Enfield than I have Factorio at this point, and one of those games cost me 30 bloody quid and the other was free. Does the story suck? Yeah, it does. I want it to get better. Does the gacha suck? It's fucking terrible. But am I having fun with the game? Also, yes. We can talk about all of these things. It's about having a nuanced conversation. That doesn't excuse bad monetization. It doesn't magically fix the gacha. But it does mean there's value here that exists outside of pulling characters themselves, and that's worth talking about because it's rare for this genre and something we all should be speaking about if you truly care about gacha games improving. We've all said that one big critique a lot of these games is the gameplay loop being kind of rough, and I think this is a good step in trying to address that problem. Of course, it only matters long term if that holds up or not. There are things in this game that absolutely need to improve. The gacha needs to change. The tutorials need work. The story pacing needs a serious rethink, and I will keep criticizing all of those things. But pretending a game has nothing worth praising just because its monetization sucks is just performative outrage. But this is the internet and this is all content. People will want performative outrage. People enjoy the feeling of rallying behind something to be viciously mad about. For some, this isn't about the game anymore. It's about criticizing what the game represents. It's become part of their own moral code and identity to be white knights of gacha. And if you say this game is good, you're going against my beliefs of what a good gacha is, and therefore you're wrong. I think part of this comes down to how people engage with content these days. A lot of people don't actually want a full conversation. They want to hear you say the thing they already agree with, which is, this game sucks. And if you don't give them that, they assume you are saying everything in bad faith and you're dishonest. Me saying this factory part is fun gets treated the same way as me saying this game is perfect, even when I've spent half a video criticizing it. And that's where we're currently at. That's the current state of gacha discourse. Tribalism at its absolute peak. Sometimes I'll be harsh on games you love, and sometimes I'll praise games you hate. If you're here for honest takes, both positive and negative, you're in the right place, and if not, that's fine too. I can guarantee right now that the same thing is going to happen with this video, even though that I've spent a lot of it talking about all the bad things that happens in Arknights. People like, but it sounds like you're still trying to defend the game when the game is bad. I guarantee you that's going to happen. Just watch. I appreciate y'all sticking around for this one. I've got a bunch of videos that I've, been thinking about making for a bunch of games. So if you're here for that stuff, if you're here for the brutal truths of matters, both positive and negative, make sure you like, comment, subscribe. I appreciate y'all. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.